Good evening. My name is Dan Carter and the current chairman of the board for the Brisbane Chamber of Commerce, and would like to welcome all of you to the annual State of the City. Tonight, we're excited to hear from Mayor O'Connell, Clay, and Mitch, and they're going to share with us. I'd also like to thank the team of South San Francisco Scavenger, as always, for the event sponsors. They do a great job for us all the time. Great group. Thank you, guys. And before we get started, I'd like to introduce some of the VIPs. The city council members we have here are Mayor Terry O'Connell, Council Member Clark Conway, Council Member Lori Liu, Council Member Cliff Lentz, and Council Member Ray Miller. And we have a couple of representatives here. We have Mark Nogales from the Office of Congressman Jackie Spears. And we have Mark Hirschman, the Office of State Senator Jerry Hill. And I'd really like to ask our police and fire officials, all of you guys, to stand up and get a hand, because we really appreciate what you guys do back there. And then I'd like for my fellow Chamber of Commerce board members to please stand and introduce yourself at this time, please.
Rich Bergello, Ecology.
Curtis Rowe, Crystal Murray.
Michael Hope of Universal Caramel.
Judy Confess, the Bellis, Brisbane Bellis Shopping Center. Barbara Bernardini from South San Francisco County.
Jason Jordan with W.
Yeah, DoubleTree. And of course, we do want to thank the DoubleTree Hotel and Zeebeck Restaurant for assisting us with the planning of this event, the evening, and the wonderful presentation of the appetizers. Thank you guys for that, as always. All of us at the Chamber support the work that the City Council and staff do each and every year to serve our community. We really do appreciate it, and we feel that as businesses, we're a big part of the community. The work that you guys do, all the people in the city, amazing. I mean, I love telling people about the service you get when you go to City Hall in Brisbane. It's as a contractor, I've been there, as a person needing assistance, and you guys are great. And Clay even takes me to some football games over at Cal every once in a while. Go Bears. And they're winning, yay. So, without further ado, I'd like to turn the microphone over to our mayor, the Honorable Terry O'Connell. Terry, come on up. I'm just going by what this says here, but whatever you want to do first, because you are the mayor. So which way are we going first?
I think we're doing the financial data.
Then I'll give you the not so honorable Clay Holstein.
You only say that because you know me.
That's right.
I think I'm going to say it's top billing, but.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to talk a little bit about the city's financial issues and current status. This is more of a story, although I'll have a few numbers up there, but I really want to more kind of tell you a narrative story of where we've been and where we're at right now and some of the issues we are tackling and the things that the City Council has actually had part of their work program in the last couple of years to deal with the long-term financial issues of the city. I guess I have to learn how to operate this. There we go. So in the past years when I've spoke here, we've talked a little bit about how the city adjusted and dealt with the Great Recession of 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, that era. And this chart here shows the operating deficits on an annual basis, basically the amount of revenue that we brought in versus the amount of expenditures. And you can see that for 2009, 10, and 11, the bars there are below the zero line. Those are years in which we spent more than we brought in, and we took that money out of reserves to be able to make that happen. At the same time, as you are well aware, we reduced the number of staff, we did a number of reorganization, and we cut expenditures pretty significantly during those years, but nonetheless, revenues really dropped like a rock during that period of time, and we had to use reserves to get our way through those years. That started to turn around in fiscal 2012, and as you can see, we are now actually into our fourth year where we've brought in more revenue than we've spent. The first 3 of those years are actually audited numbers. The fourth year is this past current year that we were in, and that's unaudited, but our preliminary numbers show that we have about a $300,000 surplus of revenues over expenditures for the year. In addition, and I'll get into this in more detail, we've actually spent about $1.3 million in last year's budget that was basically shifted to other funds to deal with long-term liabilities, and also our vehicle replacement fund. So if you add that back in, that number would have been closer to about $1.5 million. So that's this line, or the story of this is that we went through a very difficult period of time, kind of held it together, I think, from a service level standpoint, and we've been rebounding ever since. In addition to a little better financial condition, we've also been able to add back into the staffing levels of the city to meet the services and the demands that the community has. We've added new police officers. We've gotten on top of our regulatory compliance. We all know that both on a federal and state level, there's a lot more regulation in terms of things like water and sewer systems and storm drain systems, and there's a lot more reporting that we need to do, and there's permits that we have to get or participate in on a regional basis. And so has been a lot more effort in that area. So we've had a new position of a Public Works Compliance Officer. We brought on for this year a recreation manager. We did some restructuring in the recreation department, but we have a recreation manager for the first time. And we also set money aside for trail improvements, Safe Route to Schools program, and some slope repairs on San Bruno Avenue. If you've been on San Bruno Avenue in the last couple of weeks, you'll notice on the back side that one of those 2 projects was actually completed last week. We've also are in the process of providing new recreational opportunities. The skateboard park project is moving forward and should be before the City Council before the end of the year to adopt the plans and specifications to put that out to bid. And we started a brand new program up at Littman for the teens, and it's a very successful program. I think there's somewhere around 60 or 70 kids that are participating in it. We basically redirected money that was being spent in our teen program at the teen center, and we now have it being directly applied to programs at the school. So long-term issues that we are facing in the last couple of years, I think the city and through the City Council has taken a kind of a renewed focus on dealing with the long-term financial issues of the city. We've always done 5-year projecting of revenues and expenditures. We try to set money aside for certain types of activities, but we've kind of more focused in on those specific liabilities. So the first one up there is the Public Employee Retirement System, or the PERS system. The PERS system has begun to develop funding strategies long-term for dealing with future stock market fluctuations. They're lowering their amount of money or lowering their anticipated annual return. They're also dealing with things like people are all living longer, and some of the actuarial impacts of the system. We're also in this upcoming year going to be looking at doing some things in terms of the long-term funding of our PERS liability. We've been working with a company called PARS. It's called the Public Agency Retirement System. We've got some other funds that we work with them on. The next one, as a matter of fact, the OPEB. But we're going to be talking to them about potentially setting up a long-term funding program for our PERS liability, which will get us out in front of the of that issue a little better than what we're at right now. OPEB is a government acronym or a accounting acronym that stands for other post-employment benefits. It's primarily health care. So this year, I think we have roughly about an $8 million long-term liability there. This year, we set up a fund to start to deal with that. We switched about $500,000 from our general fund into the OPEB fund to get that kick-started, and we're going to be developing some strategies in the next year to kind of fund that on an annual basis. And then the city owns a number of vehicles, as you can imagine, everything from police to things in public works and fire engines and things of that nature. We estimated about $2 million, and we started to put money away this year to fund for the replacement of those vehicles. We have a planned replacement program, and this way we won't be in a situation in the future where we're making decisions on replacing vehicles, which is really often a safety issue, particularly in police and could be in other areas. Based on the annual ups and downs of the budget, we'll be able to have money set aside for that. We set in this upcoming budget $90,000 away for storm drain cleaning. We're doing an extra level of storm drain cleaning, which is going to probably come in handy here in the next few months if the predictions on El Nino come through. We actually set up the program to deal with our regional water quality permit. There's an extra level of work that needs to be done by local communities to keep debris and various sorts of things going out to the bay, and in our case, the lagoon also. We developed the long-term funding programs for our water and sewer projects. And I think this is probably one of those areas where we were pretty innovative. I don't know of any other cities that have done this, but we have set up basically a rotating system for selling bonds every 5 years. And we've also basically been able to set up a rate structure to be able to support that. And we had the city council, we had a city council subcommittee of Councilmember Miller and Conway. I think we spent, I can't remember how many meetings we spent on this issue of coming up with a fair and equitable charge for the water and sewer systems. This is an area that we really have to stay on top of. We want, obviously all of us want safe water. We want a functioning system for water and sewer, but it costs money. And the only way we are able to support this is through our rate structure. So it's all locally supported. A number of years ago, we were successful at getting some funding from the federal government, but those days are over. And so there is basically no funds other than locally supported funds for water and sewer. So we've set up the first two tranches of this capital facilities fund or fee for water and sewer. We'll be coming back to the city council in 2020 to do the third, in 2025 to do the fourth, and then from that point forward, after that, then we'll be retiring bonds and then bringing on new bonds, and so it should be relatively no impact on rates after 2025, I believe, or maybe 2030, somewhere in that neighborhood, one of those two periods of time. So we'll get the rate structure up to a point where it can be self-sustaining over perpetuity, really. We're also in the process of developing a facilities maintenance plan, master plan, which is all of our buildings, all of our structures, and in a planned replacement, just like we did for the vehicles. We have a consultant on board that's working with us right now, and I think there was something like 40 or 50 different structures that the city owns in some capacity. Everything from our marina to a fire station to our parks, different kinds of facilities, city hall, and then there's a planned replacement for those things or planned major maintenance for those. So we're going to be having that, and then we'll be talking about a funding strategy for that also. So this year also we started to look at our general fund balance policy. We've had a fund balance policy over many years to have basically 50% of the general fund set aside. And this year we kind of dug deeper into that to decide, okay, what are we setting money aside, what categories? So we have a $3.5 million set aside for an emergency, for an earthquake, tsunami, I suppose, I don't know, but any kind of major sort of natural disaster. We have $2.5 million set aside for longer-term economic issues like we faced in the '09 to 12 period of time, and $2 million set aside for one-time changes to the budget. So we feel that this is sufficient amount of cash on hand to be able to survive any kind of predictable incidents that might happen in our budget. We actually are anticipating at the end of this year, even with the money that we've set aside on some of these other funds, to be back in the neighborhood of $11 to $12 million in fund balance. Now, that's not all cash. There's a non-cash component of that, but you can see that's probably sufficient, certainly, to fund the things that we've got on this list. So that's the end of my part, and I think I'm going to turn over to the mayor at this point. Okay, and then from there, at the end, we'd like to have one of the new programs of the city this year is an economic development program. And I think, as many of you know, our chamber executive, Mitch Bull, is actually the city's economic development director. He has both hats. So I've asked him to make a few comments at the end tonight to just talk about his program.
Okay, yeah, I don't. I can do it. Sure. Okay. I'll let him push buttons. Thank you all for coming to the Brisbane State of the City address. This has been an interesting year for me. It has stretched my limits, and it has taught me a lot about how city government works, and it's been a really good experience. I want to thank Clay Holstein, our city manager, for giving a very detailed state of our economic interests, but there's more to talk about, I think, and some things that we need to make sure that we really understand. The budget news is really encouraging, and it's nice that we have reserves and we have set-asides, but we really need to keep in mind the substantial money that we need to set aside for our retirement benefits. I'm glad that Clay talked about the $8 million in unfunded liabilities, and it's really nice that we were able to set aside $500,000 this year, but we need to try to do more, because those numbers are going to come back to haunt us if we don't take care of it in this coming budget cycle and over the next few years. It's very important that we continue to live within our means and not think that having a good year means that we're not going out of our limits on where we're going to go down the road and what our funds are going to need to be to take care of our sewer, our water, and our infrastructure. Over 30 years have passed since the Sierra Point development here was created through redevelopment funds. And since then, we have 2 lovely hotels, we have a marina, we have numerous office buildings, and we still have 3 large parcels that are undeveloped. Along with that, we also have $15 million in debt that remains from building the infrastructure. So while we have money coming in from the projects here, it takes a long time. That debt's not going to be paid off for another 12 years. So it comes down to about 45 years for a project to start being realistically viable for a city and not still have a drain. Meanwhile, we're getting revenue from the hotel. We have a lovely marina. We have a community park. We have a fire station. All those things were good things that came out of developing this area. But we need to keep in mind that it's not a silver bullet to have a development in the works, and that we need to know how long that development really is going to take to come forward. One of the issues that we have is redevelopment agencies where we were able to borrow the money from use the state funding mechanisms is gone. And in its place, a new program, a new method to fund infrastructure for cities is the Enhanced Infrastructure Finance Districts. And those differ from a redevelopment agency because they need to have very specific costs. They need to have a specific project. They need to have a specific time that that money gets paid back. Most of them have a 45-year limit. So far, they have a 45-year limit. And it shows that even under the old program, it takes 40 years to come full circle and pay for that infrastructure that we've placed. So it's very important that we don't look at future development or chase future development for the silver bullet to end our financial quandaries, and that we don't look at trying to live outside our means and find a silver bullet for those things. To the accomplishments of the year. They've included that we're in the design phase for the skateboard park and the library. We've done a major renovation to our community pool. We've completed the draft EIR with help from staff and the Planning Commission, who has worked so hard. We've completed the second 25 years of the history book, and kudos to everyone who made that happen. One of the things that I was really excited about was the dredging project that we implemented, we funded, although we did it with bonds. We're paying for it as we go. But we implemented a dredging project that we got halfway done this year and are on schedule, and our boaters out at the marina have been very happy with it. And I think keeping the marina and our open space is really important, and it keeps this area where those other 3 parcels that don't have development could be developed down the road, and I think that's encouraging. Due to the hard work of the staff, the Open Space and Ecology Committee, the Sustainability Committee, the Complete Streets Committee, the council, the staff, the Planning Commission, Brisbane was able to complete some projects, and that included the San Bruno Mountain Priority Conservation Area plan, the sustainability guidelines for the Baylands, a climate action plan that actually takes into account what the boots on the ground are and is meaningful for our community, and the sustainable purchasing plan. Those are all fabulous programs that I'm so glad that we were able to get completed. I was also honored to accept on behalf of the City of Brisbane at the local League of California Cities meeting that was held last month, the first ever Gold Beacon Award for sustainability. And the award is here on the desk for everyone to admire. And that was really encouraging since it was the first time Brisbane has ever participated in the Beacon Awards. And we were the first ever gold recipient. And I think that goes to show that it really goes to show that Brisbane can make a difference. Even though we are little, we are powerful. And the Spotlight, the Gold Beacon Award is made up of Spotlight Awards. And Brisbane got, I believe, 5 or 6 of the Spotlight Awards, not only for work that the city, or what they call the agency, did in reducing greenhouse gases, but also for what the community did to reduce greenhouse gases and to have a holistic way of addressing climate change. Those issues we know are in everyone's heart and are important to look at. And some of the issues that we did was to reduce greenhouse gases, natural gas usage, and as overall, Brisbane itself reduced in the entire community over 10% of its greenhouse gas usage for the year. The Gold Award was a stunning achievement. It's the first year we participated, and I have to give a special call out to two staffers who really, really worked on this. And that was Natalie Munoz and Karen Kinzer, who both put their heart and soul into it. I think the other two people who I would need to give a special thanks to are also Barbara Ebel and Glenn Feldman, who worked on the sustainability program and brought so much intelligence and diligence looking at the little things that could make a difference, and by caring so much to keep working on it. I mean, I don't know how you can put that much heart and soul into something and not get kudos from someone. So I'm so glad that we're able to have accepted this award for their hard work. Moving forward, we have many tasks ahead of the city. Some of them revolve around the Baylands EIR hearings and the final EIR and the project that's going to go out on the Baylands. The Planning Commission has been overwhelmed with the work that has gone into it, and the citizens have been coming out and listening to it. We've done a survey to see if we can try to figure out where the community wants to be on the Baylands, but I think it's going to be still some time down the road, and as we've seen with other projects of this size, it's probably another 20, 30, 40 years for completion to see what kind of project we'll end up with out there. We also have the Recology EIR that is going to need to be looked at in the project of Recology and finding out what our community wants with regards to that project. We're going to need to work with San Francisco and San Mateo County on the Candlestick Interchange, the Caltrain station, the possible rail yard, high-speed rail, and any projects that are going to affect 101 down the road. We're also going to need to deal with some really tough zoning amendments and changes to our general plan to meet our regional housing needs. Those are numbers that are assigned to us by the city, by the state, and we have numbers we need to meet, and we need to make sure that we zone in the right way, that it keeps our character and our community the way we want our community. Further work to address what we can do locally to reduce greenhouse gases are an ongoing problem that we're going to need to deal with, and sea level rise is something that is at our doorstep, literally. We're all here, part of the Bay Area, and that's going to be the challenge that's going forward. I think the top priority for Brisbane is going to be joining with the rest of San Mateo County and local jurisdictions to research and implement the clean energy choice. We have the possibility in Brisbane to make this work, to join in with other areas to produce and use clean energy, renewable energy. And we've got the area that actually can produce some of that energy. And we can be the leader in innovation and technology on our Baylands with sustainable clean energy program. And I think that needs to be the city council and the cities and the citizens' top #1 priority in the upcoming years. So we have unique opportunities. We have a unique community, and I am so glad to have served as your mayor. Thank you.
Memorized it.
Thank you, Mayor, for your comments. Very, very well thought out. And as you can see, I'm taking this one off. Since I stand here not as the Chamber President and CEO, but as the Economic Development Officer for the City of Brisbane. Earlier this year, the City Council approved the establishment of an Economic Development Office. I'm going to give you a brief overview of where the business community is at and what this means. The goal for establishing an Economic Development Office was to provide a single point of contact for existing and potential businesses to have when dealing with the City of Brisbane, as well as to act as an ombudsman to assist businesses when they're working on trying to set up business in the City of Brisbane, to look for other opportunities to grow our tax base that are sustainable, that are ecologically approved, and to look at other ways to bring revenue into the City of Brisbane without, paving things over or whatever. That's not what economic development is. It's more like stretching economic sustainability so we can avoid the big losses in the downturns that are sure to happen as economies rise and fall over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. We work with various counties and agencies in the state, county, and our federal representatives to promote Brisbane as a great place to not only do business, but to live, work, and play, because that's why we're all here. I'm glad to say business is blooming and booming in Brisbane. On the good side, the Crocker Industrial and Business Park is between 98 and 99% leased. That's an amazing thing when you look back to 2007, 2008, when it was down 30%. I have been looking for a week and a half for a space to put a 5,000 square foot tenant who has a specialty need of air conditioning, and I don't have a space in the city. That's a good problem to have, but also a challenge, okay? From January to today, we've registered 42 new businesses through the business licensing process. Some are small contractors, some are consultants, some have already opened their doors, and there will be more doors opening this year. I'm going to give you names of a few of these companies. Allergen Research Corporation, are a small biotech in Sierra Point. Bay Area Linen Service, they are an industrial laundry. They are at 100 Cypress. If you know the building, you know it was vacant for many years. Bright Event Rentals, they're on Park Lane. Vu Vins, it is a wine wholesaler and distributor who's opening on Valley Drive probably in a month. Tea People, they are a tea blending company. They are opening on Visitation in about a month in a retail place that's going to be known as The Burrow for boba tea, etc. We have Greenleaf Produce, who moved here. We have Trimark Economy Restaurant Fixtures, which took over the space at 325 Valley. We have Nestle Bottling, Arrowhead Water. We have Lima Electronics, which are building things, building semiconductor boards in the old AAA building, which was vacant for 15 years.
No, it was not vacant for 15 years,
Okay. It was vacant for a long time.
since 2010.
Okay. 5 years. I stand corrected.
I work for AAA, sorry.
Thank you. And others, both small and large. We're also proactively working with the property owners at Sierra Point, the several of them, with those properties that have not been built. And Sierra Point has lagged. I mean, San Francisco has gone booming great guns. The 92 corridor in San Mateo County has been going great guns. They're building everything in sight. And, Sierra Point has lagged a little bit. Part of it is infrastructure. Part of it is just market conditions. And we are actively trying to lean on these people to get some of these projects going. With retail rates in San Francisco for Class A office space hitting $66 a square foot last week, I expect that we're going to see some more development in Sierra Point fairly soon. I'm hopeful. But it's our job to keep the pressure on them and keep them, doing what they're supposed to do in the agreements they have with the city. And the city staff and council and I will continue to make calls and try to see things happen. There's been renovations at 5000 Marina. There are people interested in taking that entire building that was formerly Phillips and the Singtown newspaper. There are renovations at 7,000 Marina happening. There are new tenants taking a new entire floor at 1,000 Marina, which is the black building where Hitachi is. They're moving from Daly City. We're doing outreach to our property owners within the city, our existing businesses within the city. That's important because we are lucky, really lucky, to have 500 to 600 businesses here in the city. And when you lose them, we know they're hard to replace. So we have to reach out and tell them how we value them, see what we can do better for them, see what they can do for us, see what we can do as a city, as a group. It is not business versus city. We are all in this together to make it a better place for everyone. We're reaching out and working with the San Mateo County Visitors and Convention Bureau to try to bring more impact to our hotels and to our venues here. We're working with the San Mateo China Trade Office, newly formed in the city of Millbrae, to try to look at what happens down the road when there is more opportunity for firms in China to do business in Brisbane, to do business on the San Mateo Peninsula, because we're not just San Francisco. We have a lot to do here in San Mateo County. We're also working with the Super Bowl 50 committee. I don't think we'll have a huge impact with them, but we are a super community, and they've approved us as that, and we may have banners put up for that saying we're a super community. I'm not sure we're going to be having any huge parties for the Super Bowl, but you never know. This whole outreach by the council in approving this initiative is a good first step. You know, the good news is our industrial park is full. And that is really a big turnaround from when we were sitting in the Economic Development Subcommittee 4 years ago. And it's good for the city. Now, there are also things we can do in the future. I mean, there are, Roche and Genentech bought Intermune Biotech over in the technology park. They have laid off a bunch of the people at Intermune because they've absorbed them into their South City operation. We don't know what will happen ultimately, but the building is still under lease to Genentech as the new owners and will be for a number of years. So we all believe in the initiative. We all believe that Brisbane is a great place to live and to work and to play. To help the city, I think the involvement we have, and with everyone's help in both the council, the commissions, the business community, and the city staff, we can continue to develop more innovative ways to bring more tax revenue, more opportunities for our teenagers and children into the city, maybe more water sports out at the marina, like a boat ramp, maybe a kayak school, maybe a sailing school. Who knows what's on the horizon? But we can only do it as a team, and this is a good first step. And I am honored and excited to be working with the city of Brisbane on this, and I thank everyone for their support. Thank you.
All right, I'm back up here. That means we're moving along, people. All right, so now it's that fun awards and picture thing that's going to go on. So, first of all, I'd like to thank all of you, Terry and Mitch and Clay, for the good reports tonight. And Terry, that was a really great presentation. I was very impressed with that. I could tell you're a little nervous there, but holy cow, that was very impressive. Also, I'd like to thank the city of Brisbane for the committee they've created, or and that they brought Mitch in. I've worked with Mitch on the board for a long time now, and very impressive. And you saw the presentation he made today, and I believe that, you know, strong businesses make a strong community. Strong leaders make a strong community. Strong volunteers make a strong community. That's why Brisbane is a great community, and why I'm very proud to live here and call it my home. So at this point, I also want to thank South San Francisco Scavenger again, and we'd like to present some plaques. So you want to come back up and help me with this, sir? So first of all, I'd like to invite Mayor Terry O'Connell back up here again, please. And this is a certificate of appreciation is presented to Mayor Terry O'Connell to gratefully acknowledge your generosity in speaking at the State of City, October 21st, 2015. I know. Allison.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it this way.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Next, could I invite South San Francisco Scavenger up here? Is anyone up here to represent them today? Barbara! Woo-hoo! This is a certificate of appreciation. It's presented to South San Francisco Scavenger Company to gratefully acknowledge your generosity in sponsoring the State of the City address. All right, next. Really? Clay, where are you at, buddy? Get up here. This certificate of appreciation is presented to Senator? That's pretty good. City Manager Clay Holstein to gratefully acknowledge your generosity in speaking at the State of City.
I mean, you get one every year now.
Yep. Oh,
This is the weirdest one.
this is really a weird one. This certificate of appreciation is presented to Economic Development Director Mitch Bull to gratefully acknowledge your generosity in speaking at the State of City address.
Which I also signed.
He signed it. He signed his own thing.
Yep.
Does that make it null and void when you sit
It does.
Yeah, it does.
It's always good to appreciate oneself.
Okay, so after this, I know Alice is going to want all of you up here to take pictures and stuff, and she's gonna with the Beacon Award, and she's gonna like holler at you and stuff. But that's what Allison does, and we love her for all the pictures. So before we get off here, does anyone have any questions they'd like to address to any of the people that came up here today? Mayor Terry, do you guys have a question for Terry or for Mitch or for Clay? I know there wasn't a question period, so I just want to throw it out there and put them on the spot. Anyway, I'd like to thank everyone for attending the event, and again, thank the DoubleTree and ZBAC. As always, you guys are the greatest hosts. So come on up, get some photos. Thanks, everybody, for coming out tonight. Thank you.